Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. We're also on YouTube, and you'll find the links in the podcast description. I'm also a podcasting coach, and I've got 4 other podcasts, and you'll find everything on that link /podcaster. My guest today, looking forward to this because he was actually on episode number 20, and we discussed a lot of things. We discussed NFT fraud. We also discussed domains, because I had bought a domain and you had advised me correctly what to do, which I have done since, and it's a lot better because I don't have to keep repaying this. Now I own them and they're mine, which is brilliant. We discussed a lot of other things, gas fees, and we also discussed that Ethereum 2.2, when will it come? And nobody knows. They're talking about it for 5 years, but no, we can probably start off on that because it eventually came. So is it good? Is it bad? What's your thoughts on that one?
Absolutely. Yes. I have lots of thoughts and so looking forward to, and I'm keen to hear all your experience. How did it go with your domain name and everything?
My professionalism, I actually forgot to mention your name, Sam. I think Sam Kamani. So much for podcasting for 5 years. Yeah, that just shows it. So, I know you've mentioned it before as well, but you might just actually let the audience know, because I know you're also an author and you've got your own business, but I prefer when you actually mention it to the listeners.
Absolutely, yes. And also things have changed since what I was doing back then to now. So just a brief sort of a history and my background. Last 18 years I've been involved in tech startups. I've had 2 small exits, first one in e-commerce, then second one in esports. In both the companies I did more on the growth and the marketing side. I am originally from computer science background, so that gives me the ability to understand the technology, and that's why I run a tech podcast in that way. Over the last 5 years I've kept an eye on the whole crypto scene, but a year ago I decided to jump full time back into it, into Web3, into blockchain and all that. So I started my Web3 podcast, and I joined and started working with a Web3 startup that's based out of LA. So we have a software platform that allows software developers to go and create smart contracts. So now you don't need to know programming, Solidity, or have that knowledge. You can go and create your own smart contract. And so what are smart contracts, or what are they used for? So say, for example, you want to create a DAO, you want to create an NFT, you want to create your token. It could be anything in Web3 space. It works based on a smart contract. Smart contract is just basically a record of what transaction needs to take place that's stored on the blockchain. So this platform allows you to do that in a no-code way. So people upload their templates, and then you can use that template and create your own. So just like how there is Canva for design, so this is for smart contracts. So that's what the platform, it's called cookbook.dev, DEV, because it's for developers, but anyone can use it without code. And so yeah, that's what I do. I'm part of their founding team. It's 4 of us. We built this platform. It's been growing really fast, really well. Super happy with the progress, and it's solving a problem for Web3 developers. So that's what I do in my full-time job. And then I run my podcast and I write books on tech startups and I speak at events and all that. So yeah, that's me.
So what do you do in your free time, Sam?
I don't have any free time after all this stuff. Yes.
So I suppose, I know I mentioned the Ethereum. I suppose let's stay with the Ethereum, because I want to go back to the smart contracts. So the pros and cons of Ethereum 2.0.
Yes. So cons, I'll start first with cons, because there are a lot more pros than there are with cons. So on the pros side, on the con side, that it can make it a bit more centralized, because what has happened is that it has gone from proof of work to proof of stake. So you need to stake Ethereum. Now, who has the most Ethereum to stake? and that is exchanges, because exchanges have lots of Ethereum passing through them. And so they, at any point, they hold a lot of Ethereum. So top 5 exchanges, or it used to be 6, FTX is gone, as we all know. We can talk about that. That's a different topic. But yes, so top 5 exchanges hold about something like 65% of Ethereum. So they get that much of a say in what happens with Ethereum, because Ethereum is kind of like in a way like an organization, or Ethereum Foundation. So they decide, okay, what do we want to do? So Ethereum has a roadmap, and the merge that just happened a couple of months ago was the first step. And it used to be said that for the last 4 or 5 years, it was always 6 months away, or for the last 5 years. And so it eventually happened. But the merge was just the first step in a 5-step process. So it's the merge, then it is the surge, the verge, the purge, and the last one is the plurge. So so don't ask me to explain all this in detail. It is super technical, but the good thing, what it is for anyone to understand, and the easy thing is that now the pros on it is that the gas fees has already come down. The transactions are much faster. It is still very secure. And on how you address the con side on the centralization part is that exchanges, people put their money, or they decide to trade with what exchange. So if they don't like the decisions that exchange is taking, they are free to take their Ethereum out and keep it in their wallet, keep it in their, I'm sure everyone knows by now, not your keys, not your crypto. So they can keep in their own digital wallet. It doesn't even have to be a hardware wallet. It can still be a software wallet. You can just download it and then not connected to internet. So you can have a separate phone. You can just download it there and delete that app. Just keep the numbers, your phrase.
Just on that, because you mentioned there's like the 6 big boys, so they like this is like a company as such, because if they've got a 51% stake, they can then decide to do something in their favor. But like
not
it
really,
like
because 51% thing happens in the proof of work. Okay. Not in proof of stake, because proof of stake, they could do voting in all sorts of different ways, that that one person gets only one vote even if they hold 5 million Ethereum, or something like that. So it's 51% does not matter in this. 51% attack matters in things like proof of work. So say if someone has the financial ability to have 51% of all the hash power or the mining power in Bitcoin, then they can change the blockchain, overtake and rewrite the transactions, in a way, you can say. I'm not using the right words, but basically they can manipulate it. What is the safeguard is that there are miners all around the world, all spread out, and no one person has the ability to control 51% of the mining power. So that's in the proof of work side, but in proof of stake, it's not so much of a big deal as of now. And the gas prices have come down drastically on the Ethereum side. And this is only the first step. So this step was, in fact, no one was expecting gas prices to come down as much, because this is just laying the groundwork for the next 4 stages. So that's what that's what the stage is.
So I assume the gamers are happy now that all the miners aren't actually buying all the software or the processing units. I know a
Yes,
lot of
because
them will
it's no
be
longer
selling it.
proof of work. So what miners did was they went to Ethereum Classic, basically. Already it was happening. It was, as the date was coming closer and closer, for the last 6 months, they were moving to ETH Classic, because ETH Classic is going to just stay as the classic version. And this ETH is going to have continuous developments being worked on this. And it will move to, by the end of all the 5 stages, it will move to 100,000 transactions per second. But even 100,000 transactions per second is not that much of bandwidth, you can say, because there are billions of people. Of course, not everyone is going to do a transaction every second, but the amount of data we use keeps increasing. And the amount of transactions we use, or our transactions, not we, but our computers make, our phones make, our tablets, our laptops, everything is making. And then interconnected devices, the gaming, everything is making transactions all the time. So, but Ethereum is just the layer 1 of the piece of the puzzle. There is also all these layer 2s that work on top of Ethereum. And then on top of that, you factor in like zero knowledge proof, optimism rollups, or ZK rollups, and all those sort of tech that is coming out. It is getting, already it is cheaper than traditional Visa and MasterCard networks. And with Ethereum moving to proof of stake, 95% of all crypto has overnight become green. And more efficient than, it's becoming more efficient than the traditional sort of transactions and traditional Web2 ecosystems, because so many of the chains use Ethereum as the underlying network, as like there are L1s and then L2s, and so many chains work on EVM or Ethereum virtual machine. So this is definitely a step in the right direction, and this has no correlation to the pricing in the markets and all that, because this is to do with the technology. So yeah.
No, brilliant. And with the Bitcoin, then that's proof of work, yeah. And because I've heard
Yes,
of
that's proof
Bitcoin,
of work.
is it lightning speed or lightning or something like that for kind of,
Lightning network. So they have
yeah.
always,
So how
they've
always that
been
work?
talking. So basically the Lightning Network has the promise, or they've always promised, they've talked about of increasing the transaction speeds and reducing the amount of energy it takes and all that. But the thing is that I don't know many developers who currently are working on the Bitcoin network. So Bitcoin is not used for transaction of value or transfer of value. Bitcoin is purely used as a store of value in most cases. There are other use cases where Bitcoin is used. Bitcoin is used as the on-ramp to crypto. So people change from like the BUSD, or what do you call, like USD to Bitcoin is the biggest pair on Binance. That is the biggest sort of transaction volume of anything. A lot of people move from USD to Bitcoin, and then from Bitcoin they go and change to other Ethereum and things. So the transactions and all the programming and most of the developers are in the Ethereum ecosystem. It is by far the biggest, and where the developers are, that's where the solutions will develop, whether it is in finance or in any industry or law or anything, or gaming, or whichever industry you touch. So I follow the, there's a saying like, follow the money. So it's like, if you want to see what's gonna happen in tech, what's the future, you follow the developers. Where are they building solutions? Because that's what people will use. It's like, if you go to right now, it's ETH India going on. I went to 4 weeks ago, I went to ETH San Francisco in US, and there was like nearly 1,700 developers there under one roof for 3 days, developing solutions all on Ethereum or EVM based ecosystems, most of them in that. and there's so many amazing solutions coming out that we won't get to use for the next 2 to 3 years. But I got a taste of, what people are developing and what people are creating. And there's hardly anyone creating or developing anything on the Bitcoin ecosystem. But that does not mean people are not that does not mean that people are not using Bitcoin to store value. And there is other things. So initially I got it wrong. So it's like I've known about Bitcoin since 2011, and I tried to set a miner in my laptop, and I got some virus, and I gave up and stuff. And it was even in 2012, you needed, like, you couldn't mine just on your laptop. You needed like a proper mining equipment and stuff. So I just gave up. It all was too hard a basket. And even in 2015, and I always kept an eye on it, and I got it wrong. It's like I used to think that why would anyone use Bitcoin? The transactions are slow and they are expensive. The transaction, if I just want to move $1 worth of Bitcoin, and it takes me, proof of work and all that. So it's like, and the biggest of all is like, I could not, at that time I was running a small business, and we used to sell online and herbal supplements and things. So it's like I could not see it using, I mean, it's small as in it was still like multi-million-dollar in revenue and profits and stuff, but I could not perceive paying to my suppliers in Bitcoin when the value is inflating or deflating by a few 100% every day. When there is volatility, it's like no one likes volatility. It's like any developing country that's going through hyperinflation or deflation like crazy, you just can't do business. You don't know what to pay your suppliers. You don't know what to charge because one day price is this, next day is that. So I couldn't understand that. But then I see the use case of Bitcoin really, really well now, that it is not for transferring value. It is for storing value. So you buy it, hold it for years, and let it and have it as part of your diversification strategy. And that's what a lot of people have used it for. They have realized that, and they don't. And so say, okay, if you want to code, if you want to program, if you want to build things, you use Ethereum, you use other layer 2s, you build solutions on top of those, not on Bitcoin. None of the NFTs work on Bitcoin. Probably you could make them work, but they don't. I mean, NFT is just like one small use case, but there's lots of use case, whether it is in ticketing or whether it is in tracking freight, that all these solutions are out there and that companies are using, but they are using other chains, not Bitcoin.
And like, based on what you're saying there, it looks to me like Ethereum is totally undervalued, and it can only go one direction. But then again, this space is so kind of crazy.
Not necessarily, because there are lots of other chains that are based on Ethereum. They have the value. If you accumulate all those chains values with Ethereum, that the whole EVM ecosystem. So you have to consider other chains like Polygon and Metis, and there's so many. There's 20 chains. I can find you all the names of them, or even more, that work based on Ethereum. Even Binance or BNB, it works on Ethereum, so it uses the same EVM ecosystem. Solana is the only big one that is different that I can think of, but most of them are Ethereum based. So when you add all those up, yes, the Ethereum ecosystem is already bigger in that way, and some of these L2s have the potential to become as big as Ethereum. And there is a word called flippening. So flippening is when the Ethereum's market cap will be higher than Bitcoin. So there has always been a speculation that will happen, but we don't know when. So yeah, it's interesting.
Probably our next podcast, because every time we say something, it happens the next time.
Yes, yes. So we should definitely, if flippening happens, then we should definitely cover it. That we said it here and it happened.
No, definitely. So I know you mentioned earlier about FTX, and I think there's been a kind of knock-on effects with, is it Gemini and Genesis? So like that's
Yes,
kind of
yes.
rocking the whole market. And I suppose let's touch on that, but also on the regulation, because it looks like the whole government was involved in this. Because if you look at Gary Gensler, MIT, and who's connected to
Yes.
who, it's like it's rotten to the core.
It is rotten, but we all know that it was always rotten to the core. It was never, it's just that it's out in the open now. I don't know if you remember, like, when was it? Some time ago, there were some of the banks in Europe, they had the price fixing scandal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, that was maybe 7, 8 years ago or
Was that
something
the
like that.
VBOR? Was it that they were doing the VBOR? They were playing with the
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
they had that, and then they've had that money laundering scams and stuff in with HSBC and
Yeah, they
and
come
all
out
that.
they come after us for small money going across, and they're doing billions themselves, like,
Yeah, billions, exactly right.
and
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
happens to them, like.
Nothing happens to, yeah, absolutely nothing happens to them. It's just like um the thing is that something will happen to Sam, SBF. I know why it will, because um he took money from rich people, lots and lots of VCs and lots of powerful people. So that's why I think that he will probably end up going to jail. If we just took from, mom and dad's, nothing would happen to him. But he didn't. He took from nearly every major VC firm is now affected uh, in this scandal.
But it
Even
doesn't
those
add up.
startups.
Like when I was looking at it, apparently he was raising 200 million from one big company, and he was playing a game on it. It's like, this is like a whole joke, to be honest with you. Like, nobody
Yeah,
invests that kind of money without doing their proper research. You just listen to his so-called, I don't know what kind of cult they had, but you just listen to the girl that was at high position. I don't even know her
I
name.
know.
You know, she hasn't got a clue. I wouldn't put a
He
penny into that.
hasn't got a clue.
You
She's
just
just a
from the
kid.
conversation. So how, like, this is like, are these big investment firms all part of it, just taking money from the pension funds, which in turn is our money, and we can't do
Yes.
anything about it?
Yeah, yeah, that is pretty much correct. But the thing is that so much of the decisions are emotional decisions that we later on justify with data. Just like when, people buy a house, they like the house and then they later on justify to themselves. That's why it's said even buying a car is an emotional decision. You make the purchase, provided you have money. Of course, if you don't have money, no matter how much you like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, it's hard to buy if you don't have, if you're homeless. But if you have the money, then you choose the car, and then based on emotions in the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, and then you justify to yourself, like later on, that day I bought this because it has this or that or this feature or that feature, all that. So same thing happens with VCs. They invest if you have the right background. You are ex Stanford, you are ex MIT, ex Google, ex this, that, and that plays a huge role. They don't do as much due diligence on you if you have that criteria, if you fulfill all those things, if you have ticked all those boxes. But if you are no one, if you are from outside of the network, outside of the whole ecosystem, then yes, then they will do massive amounts of background checks and massive amounts of due diligence and feasibility studies and all sorts of things, and get the biggest lawyers and make things really, really airtight. So it's just unfortunate. And that's why when you are rich and from a rich background and from a rich family, it is definitely, you have that privilege, that things do come a lot easier because you have that existing networks that opens the doors for you. And so, it should all be about we should be teaching kids how to build these networks of your own when you don't have any. So how to, you know meet and mingle with the most influential people when you're from outside the circle. It's not that easy.
Yeah, no, definitely. So with the Gemini and Genesis, they're basically saying that they invested. So now they're preventing people from withdrawing. That's my understanding of it. Is that correct?
That was what was happening. I don't know if that is still the case, but yeah, they are not the only ones in trouble. Grayscale is potentially in trouble, and then I think it's a DCG or something, Digital Currency Group. They are very big investors as well. They're invested in lots. They are in trouble as well. There's also BlockFi that that's got all engaged in this, and they went bankrupt. They went belly up. So yeah, it was yeah, so lots and lots. Three Arrows Capital, I'm sure you would have heard of that, of Three Arrows Capital, and everything that happened to that. So what was happening was that with Three Arrows Capital is that it was taking loans from 8% at 8% interest, and staking it at 20% interest at other high risk places. And that loan was from BlockFi, and then it was loaning it to someone else, and then I think Luna or Anchor Protocol or someone, it was lending it to at 20%. And they thought they found this infinite money machine. They get 12%, arbitrage in the, but then when Anchor Protocol failed, could no longer pay that sort of rates, which always happens. Anyone's promising you 20% interest rates when the OCR is much lower, and so there's something happening somewhere. So anyway, so they failed on there, and then Three Arrows Capital could no longer pay BlockFi, and so BlockFi was going belly up. This is all happened at the time of the Luna and all that. And that's when SBF or FTX came and gave them a 400 million line of credit to BlockFi, that anytime you want money, you just call us up. And in return, you get us a stake in your company. And then when FTX blew up, their line of credit went belly up, and they also went belly up. So that's how BlockFi, who just declared bankruptcy a few days ago, that's what happened to them. But everything was linked, and what happened is that a lot of the VCs weren't that bad. Actually, they were good, good VCs doing good due diligence and everything, and they invested in a startup, let's say startup A. But in that same startup, at a later stage, at the following round or another round, FTX invested or Alameda invested, and then they required that startup to put their treasury with them, because they're also one of the investors. They did that, thinking that, oh yeah, they must be stable, as everyone trusted them because they had all the biggest names with them. So they did that, and all these startups who put their treasury with FTX or Alameda, they got killed, because not because of their own their own fault, because they were doing anything dodgy or anything like that. And then all those investors who invested in all these small startups, they got killed as well. So there's massive contagion in the whole ecosystem because of this. And there's still lots more to come out. I mean, this is all this, and then at the same time, there are lots and lots of rug pulls and shitty projects that are still going on, which should have no hope of surviving, even without this FTX debacle, and so all those are going to to go down to zero as well. But you know what the interesting thing is, that at the same time, it's like I am still seeing so much developer activity, and there's still so many people building in this space, that feels like it's not reduced at all, because those people are still there, because they weren't trading, so they didn't get burned. They didn't care about trading the everyday price. It's like, you're a software engineer, you don't really care about Facebook stock market price, or Zoom that is 80% or 70% down, or you don't care about that. People who are trading, they got burnt. But yeah.
Like you mentioned about Visa there, and it's something that I have discussed on other shows, and it's like a pet hate for me because PayPal, they take so much of a percentage. Like Visa
Yes.
and MasterCard, they're taking approximately 2.93%. And even PayPal, like I had one transaction, it was only small, it was like $50, but because of the account was set up a certain way, it was 11% between their fees and the currency exchange. And like, I would love to see the three of them knocked over, because even 0.1% is enough for transactions, and they're milking it. And I don't want to see them, like when I'm watching the World Cup, I don't want to see their advertisements, because I know that every time I'm buying something, it's paying for that.
Yes, you would be surprised. So much of in the new decentralized world is open source and free. There is it is coming down so fast, all the fees and everything. We don't know how long all this open source things would be allowed to build and how long they would be able to be open source, but there are lots and lots of good DAOs, or like decentralized autonomous organizations, because of their simple structure, and because a lot of these things can be run by such a small team that you don't need much money to run a lot of these things. And that's why I do think it is going to be a game changer. And we will see, not right now. We will see its effects in the next 2 to 3 years, in the next bull run, which always happens.
Excellent. So with your own thing, with the smart contracts, because that's something that I'm conscious of. So is everything in the smart contract written in the blockchain, and it's
Yes.
not stored? Because that's some of the thing that I had discussed with some of the NFTs and everything. And I know some people are kind of after figuring it out, but basically where it was stored, if somebody disappeared, that all the information was gone. So if we do say, if we're doing real estate with a smart contract or something like that, everything is on the actual blockchain, so that, say, if somebody decides to sell parcels of a land or apartments or something like that,
Yes.
that they actually, no matter what happens with the person that sold it, if they go bankrupt or whatever, you physically have what you've purchased.
Yeah. So yes, 100% right. So basically, the concept of blockchain, blockchain is just a database. It's just a fancy name for a database, in my view. Let me try and explain the key sort of difference between a regular database and a blockchain. In a probably not the correct example, but an easier way to explain. Think of a database as a drum or as a barrel, and you're just putting data in there. Of course, it is organized better than that, and it continuously reorganizes it. But that's how you think of it, as a database. Now, this database is say connected to a computer, and it's on the cloud. That's what generally happens. So when we logged into Zoom, it's our details are in a database, in most likely in AWS. So wherever their AWS server is, it just stays, our information stays there. If you are uploading this to the cloud, it will stay there, and you'll be able to go back and access it. But if the day AWS or Zoom decides to go belly up, and AWS decides that, okay,